2 wins in our first 5 games, a very difficult loss to Brighton to consume and for all of us to figure out in our heads. But maybe things aren't quite as bad as we think they are. Welcome, Blue Believers, to another episode of the Stamford Sync, where we are syncing up with everything Chelsea FC. And today, I've decided to be less hyperbolic, throw away some of that negativity, and try and look forward to why things might not be as bad as we think they are. They might not be as good as we want them to be. Now, I'm absolutely not saying that, but at the same time, for all of us, myself included, who are kind of losing our collective Chelsea-coated minds about how difficult things seem to be at the moment, I've done a little bit of digging into our performance this season versus last season and how things are going, and a little bit about the league in general, not just about our own performance. And there are potentially some reasons why we can all put the brakes on the panic stations right now. But guys, before we get into it, if you're enjoying the content and would like to see more, please do me the distinct honour of liking and sharing the video, subscribe to the channel, or just roast me in the comments, whatever gets you through your day. Right, so we're 6 games in, 6 games played, 8 points. That's not great. That's not amazing reading on its own. And here's a little look at the current state of affairs for the top 8, right? Okay, so Liverpool still smashing it, whatever. Do you know what I mean? That's kind of the same as it was last season. We are currently 8th with 8 points, which does not look amazing, does it? That's a point for every position, which is a completely arbitrary stat that doesn't actually mean anything. But at the end of the day, you know, we don't want to be in 8th. We want to constantly be looking like we're fighting for that top 4 at the very, very least, right? But I'm just going to bring up a little graphic of exactly this point last season to start to illustrate what I'm talking about. So here it is. Now, instantly, what you can see is Chelsea were higher last season at this point now than they were. So what are you even talking about, Matt? Right, it's all crazy. So what you can instantly see is look how different the makeup of the top 8 is, right? Right now, the top 4 is completed by Crystal Palace, Tottenham and Sunderland, whereas last season, we were in the mix with Arsenal and Chelsea behind Liverpool. So instantly, that tells you, okay, in general, the big clubs are struggling more in this opening run of games than they were last season. And, you know, that's probably largely down to a lot of the injury stuff as well, isn't it? A lot of the top clubs have all brought lots of players. Tottenham brought loads of players. City have got loads of new players. Arsenal also lots of new players. And, you know, what we all have in common at the moment largely is injuries, right? You know, Madueke's out for a really long time now, which has just happened to Arsenal. Liverpool have lost a couple of their players. City, obviously, Rayan Cherki, really bad injury. Chelsea completely devastated with injuries. But even just from, you know, forgetting our position, because yes, we were doing better last season than we are this season, the makeup of the top 8 is very, very different this season as it was last season. And you wouldn't necessarily expect it to stay that way, would you? So my ultimate aim for this video is to take a look at where we might be after 10 games. Have a look at the next 4 fixtures we've got coming up. Try to be objective, reasonable predictions about whether we can win those games or not, and see where we will fall at the end of this 10-game period. Compare it where we were to where we were last season as well. And let's just, like I say, have a little look at maybe putting the brakes on some of the everything's falling apart sort of thing. I know that to a level, this is arbitrary, right? Because anything can happen. But at the same time, football is all about patterns. And I mean, you know, let's just try. I'm trying desperately to be positive. And like I say, it's not even about being positive. It's just about not being overwhelmed by negativity. And maybe especially by the time the international break is over, we're going to have a lot of players back in this, that and the other. Let's just take a little look at how things could turn up. So first things first, let's look at the Premier League table last season after 10 games. And here it is. So last season, after 10 games, Chelsea were in 4th place with 18 points with 5 wins, 3 draws and 2 losses, right? So you could reasonably expect Liverpool to probably, you know, they look like they're running away with it this season, don't they? Well, you know, obviously we'll have to see what happens with them. But just aside from them, so like I say, for me, from the off, I never thought we were in for a title challenge, so that was never necessarily something I was back in. But also just bear in mind, based on this, after 10 games last season, at Christmas, we were 2nd, right? So things can really, really change depending on how results go for people around you as well. Okay, so last season, after 10 games, we were on 18 points, 5 wins, 3 draws, 2 losses. let's have a look at the next 4 Chelsea games in the Premier League. Make some predictions about whether we think we can win these games or not. I'm not going to do draws. I'm just going to do wins or losses, which is a little bit hyperbolic, I guess. But at the same time, it's like really difficult to predict a draw, isn't it? And let's just see reasonably where we end up with these sorts of predictions after the 10 games. So the first game we've got coming up is Liverpool. Now, I think most of us can agree, based on where we're at the moment, with injuries and the feeling at the club and everything kind of being pretty difficult, do you know what I mean? I think it's reasonable to expect us to lose that game. If we come out of that game with a point, then that's brilliant, do you know what I mean? And, you know, maybe that could change things going forward. But at the same time, I don't think it's unreasonable to assume that we may well lose this game to Liverpool, being that they are top of the table. They've just lost to Crystal Palace, but apart from that, they are absolutely flying. So after Liverpool, we've got the international break, and after which we can expect most of the players that will come back soon to be back. Notwithstanding, we'll probably be without Liam Delap until December, and obviously Levi Colwell's gone for the rest of the season. But Cole Palmer should be back, Tosin Adarabioyo should be back, Benoit Badiashile, Romeo Lavia should be a lot fitter by then. You know, there's definitely, our squad will be thicker, do you know what I mean? And a little bit less decimated by the time we come back after the international break. And the first game in the Premier League after that is Nottingham Forest. Now, will Nottingham Forest be a tough game? Yes, of course it will. But themselves, they are going through a transitional period. They've just brought in a new manager. Lots of crazy stuff going on at the club at the moment. You know, it is always difficult. You know, well, not always. Obviously, Arne Slot just came in and did it, didn't he? But for the most part, when new managers come in, it can be tough, right? And I think it is not crazy to expect Chelsea to win the game against Nottingham Forest, bearing in mind we'll have most of our injured players back. So let's call that 3 points. Then we've got a Champions League game against Ajax. Now, I'm not going to factor in any of the Champions League games into this. We're just going to look at the Premier League. But after that Champions League game, our next game is against Sunderland. Reasonable to assume we'll get 3 points against Sunderland, right? Because what we haven't done yet, like most of the teams we've been playing have been mid-table teams, do you know what I mean? And, you know, Crystal Palace, Brentford, Fulham, do you know what I mean? These aren't, although I predicted Brentford to get relegated this season, they are kind of proving everyone wrong. They just battered Man United 3-1, do you know what I mean? So, you know, we've been playing a lot of the kind of mid-table teams that are doing quite well. When it comes to Sunderland, you would have to expect us to win that game, I would have thought. So let's say that's another 3 points in the bag. And our next Premier League game after that is Tottenham. Now, Tottenham at the moment doing very well, but it's Tottenham. It's reasonable to expect, again, for me, that will beat Tottenham. Even though, look, Thomas Frank's a wicked manager and they're doing really, really well. But if we're coming off of the back of potentially 3 wins, if we do factor that Ajax win in there, we're going to be on form. Our players are going to be feeling fit, feeling fresh, because we're going to be able to rotate a bit more when necessary. We're not going to have to flag everyone to keep running when they've been playing all of these games. Do you know what I mean? It is reasonable to expect by the time that we come up against Tottenham, we'll have a few wins behind our back, you know, 6 points in the Premier League potentially, and hopefully a win against Ajax in the Champions League. All of these I completely expect to reasonably be able to happen. And then when it comes to Tottenham, I think we can beat them as well. So let's call that another 3 points in the bag. I think every Chelsea fan in my comments would crucify me if I predicted a loss to Tottenham as well. Do you know what I mean? So that's where I'm sitting with it at the moment. In the next 4 games, Liverpool, loss. Okay, fair enough. Nottingham Forest, win. Sunderland, win. Tottenham, we got to go for a win. And like I say, if we get these wins before the Tottenham game, then reasonably we'll be on form. And like I say, our squad will be a bit thicker and, you know, we'll have more players back and stuff. So I do expect us to be able to win that game. That gives us 9 points, a potential reasonable to expect 9 points in the next 4 games. And after 10 games, that will leave us at 17 points, which is only 1 point behind where we were at the exact same point last season. That's also bearing in mind that the rest of the teams around us aren't doing as well. Not only does the top 8 look different now to how it did last season, the teams in 2nd and 3rd have less points than the teams in 2nd and 3rd did last season as well. So everyone kind of came out smashing it last season, do you know what I mean? But this season, there's lots of problems for lots of clubs. And after the international break, depending on what happens, you know, for instance, one concern I have, a massive one, is João Pedro, right? If João Pedro is playing, the international break. Now, I'm not sure whether these are friendlies or whatever, do you know what I mean? So it might be a case of if it's a friendly, they can try someone else. But I'm worried about João Pedro having to play all of these games. And where does Mark Yu fit into this? Where does Tyreek George fit into this? Do you know what I mean? Unfortunately, at the moment, without Liam Delap, it does look like to win most of these games, you would want to have a fit and firing João Pedro at the helm of it all. But apart from that, I do genuinely think that all of these games are winnable. And by 10 games, we might literally be 1 point behind where we were last season. And that seems to be, as of right now, that seems to be the state of play for a lot of clubs, right? So, in essence, yes, the start of the season has been difficult, but looking at the games we've got coming up, juxtaposed against the fact that there's an international break and we'll have a lot of our injured players back, and hopefully Cole Palmer's fit and firing by then as well, because we're giving him an extended break now. Do you know what I mean? He's getting a big break, and that is hopefully going to be in order to make sure that he is ready and available to come back and play these games. They've said that he doesn't need surgery. At the moment, they're saying that he doesn't need surgery, so that is a good thing, because if he needed surgery, then he'd be out for months, do you know what I mean? And then maybe we'd be, looking at a little bit more of a worry. But yeah, at the same time, man, that's kind of it. That's where I'm landing. And yes, I am struggling at the moment. But the thing is, at the moment, we're all pointing fingers, right? All of us collectively pointing fingers. A lot of us want to blame the sporting directors. A lot of us want to blame Maresca. Some of us are also pointing at the players and being like, what's going on there? Your Sanchez is getting sent off. Trevor Chalobah getting sent off. Santos making this crazy back pass. We're going through a difficult period right now, but it does look like it is one that we could come out of. Now, we could potentially, I'm being really, really, really positive here. If we get a point against Liverpool and win those next 3 games, then we'll be at exactly the same point we were last season. Now, I don't expect us to get a point against Liverpool. I expect them to put us to the sword, if I'm being completely honest. But if the unexpected happens and we get a point at Liverpool, then we could end up at 18 points. We could be well on track to being at the same point after 10 games as we were last season. And in isolation, coming off the back of 3 wins, that'd actually look really positive. Do you know what I mean? The injuries have definitely hurt us, man, 100%. Like, being without Levi Colwill has really been difficult, not necessarily because he is the most fantastic player ever. Like, I think he's great, don't get me wrong, but it's the consistency and the role that he plays and how that anchors the team. That's obviously been a real big struggle for Maresca to try and deal with, okay, how do I get the same result out of this different collection of players? And I've only got 1 or 2 that I think can play this role, but they don't do it as well as Levi. And obviously the striker thing as well, we potentially could attribute to the fact that João Pedro's gone a few games without scoring now, to the fact that he's not getting any breaks. And you definitely probably would have seen Liam Delap in a couple of these games. I think that's fair to assume. So I just think that realistically, like, if you think I'm being totally crazy and you don't think we're going to get points out of any of these games, or you think it's unlikely we'll be top, no, let's talk about it in the comments, man. Let's talk about it in the comments. But I think that we can really start to judge after 10 games. And that is the general thing, isn't it? It's like, it's so hard at the start of the season, especially when you're going through a bad period like we are, to be like, oh, things are horrible, things are awful, things are falling apart or whatever. But it's the old adage, isn't it? It's like, let's have a look after 10 games, man. And that's exactly what I'm trying to do. And if my non-hyperbolic and reasonably positive predictions come true, then we could be at least in the same position by after 10 games as we were last season, and hopefully only being able to build upon that in the future as well. We are hoping to see Liam Delap back in November, December, do you know what I mean? And that would be a huge win, man. Getting him back will be a huge win. And you would have thought by that time the centre-back situation, provided everyone is fit, will hopefully have kind of started to resolve itself in terms of like, okay, we know that these are the guys to play. And it's probably still going to be Tosin and Chalobah, isn't it? But at the same time, Wesley Fofana's coming back. That's a huge one, man. When he's fit and firing, Wesley Fofana is an amazing player. Badia Shields back now, which is going to take some of the pressure off of some of those other guys. Romeo Lavia's back, which again takes some pressure off of Enzo Fernandez from having to play every game, and is going to make Andre Santos have to work even harder to get into the team. So there are, and you would have thought by this time we'd have seen some of our shiny new wingers start to play as well. So at the end of the day, I just think that maybe things aren't quite as bad as we're thinking, and I'd love to know what you all think about it in the comments. Guys, I will be streaming on the Blue Lounge tonight, so check in with us, and we're going to, I'll talk about some of this stuff on the stream tonight, man. I think it's going to be really easy to get wrapped up and lost in the negativity of it all, but I'm going to try and bring some of these ideas to the boys tonight on the stream and see what they think. Come along and have a chat with us, man. Get involved in the comments, and you know, it's always a good time on a Sunday. Nice one, guys. I'll catch up with you all very, very soon. Take it easy. Peace.